Joining from Capitol Hill is the Maine Independent Senator Angus King, a key member of the Senate Intelligence and Armed Services Committees. Thanks so much, Senator, for joining us. As you may or may not know, the House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Mike McCall says there was clearly a larger conspiracy in Paris that originally may have been thought with as many as 20 people directly involved. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I don't think there's much doubt about that. Something like what happened in Paris doesn't happen in a vacuum. There have to be people acquiring weapons, passports, all the kinds of background that goes into this. I'm not going to duck your question, Wolf, but I'm going into a briefing in about 20 minutes with the FBI and other members of the intelligence community, and we'll know more this afternoon. But I wouldn't dispute the chairman's statement that there are more than just these eight individuals. I don't think it was hundreds by any means, but the number 20 seems reasonable and consistent with what I've been hearing.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing as well. John Brennan, the CIA director, yesterday said that he suspects, and he has a lot of information, obviously, that there are other ISIS plots, in his words, in the pipeline right now, that they're ready to go, presumably including against American targets. You have any reason to doubt what he says?
No, I think that's accurate. I mean, we know that. Again, I know that there are ISIS people, and by the way, they're not Syrian refugees or Yemeni refugees. They're people that are already here and of various backgrounds that are waiting for the word. And in fact, we have thwarted a number of those plots here. But this is a nightmare scenario, Wolf, where you don't have a large group of people, you don't have a lot of planning, you don't have a lot of communication, so it's hard to get that information. It may be one or two people in Kansas City or St. Louis or San Diego who go out and take weapons to a place where people gather. That's what's chilling about the French attack. Wasn't a government facility, wasn't military. They were just going after ordinary people. That's what made it so cowardly and brutal in my mind. I think even calling them terrorists sometimes these people are thugs as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and you know, it's not just the so-called original fear of these individuals, these lone individuals or lone wolves, or whatever. This would be, presumably, this is what the CIA director, John Brennan, was referring to, a coordinated, highly coordinated ISIS attack against the U.S. target.
Well, you know, I think we have to assume that, and that's why we have to keep our guard up on all fronts, and we have to pay attention to these things. One of the more difficult plots to thwart is you have people in the U.S. who are self-radicalized online or however, and then ISIS sends out, and we know they do this, a kind of terrorist APB that says, okay, now's the time to go, and they take up their arms and go after either a hard target like the military recruiting center or a soft target like a sporting event. And the problem, Wolf, is you can never be 100% sure in a situation like this, and we don't want to become a police state. But we've got to try to find that balance between protecting people's security and also not throwing away the values that make us who we are as Americans. But I think people are legitimately worried and concerned, and I am too. And I think we've got to look at our whole process of who we let into the country and what the vetting process is, just to be sure that it's meeting the needs of this relatively new threat.
Are you comfortable letting thousands of Syrian refugees come into the United States?
Well, I think the important thing to say is, Wolf, that if you decide tomorrow and announce yourself as a refugee, you want to go to the United States, it would take 18 months to 2 years to get here. So there's no immediate entry. There's a long process of investigation and biometric data and fingerprints and all those things. But I do think even on top of that, given the fact that there's a built-in 18-month to 2-year period starting now, it gives us time to really dig into whether that process is fully adequate to protect our security and whether we need to have special precautions for people coming from regions of the world that are liable to be harboring terrorists. I've been saying for a month or so that my concern was that people could be infiltrating, terrorists could be infiltrating refugee groups, and we don't know that that's what happened in France, but it appears that may have been the case. So I do think we've got to really step back and say, okay, what are the processes that we have in line now, and are they adequate?
In the wake of the Paris attacks, do you think Congress finally should move to vote authorizing legislation to give the president, the Department of Defense, authorization to go ahead and launch military action against ISIS in Syria?
I'm smiling, Wolf, because to me that's so obvious. It's something we should have done a year ago. Tim Kaine, myself, and a handful of others have been beating that drum, just saying, look, this is Congress's responsibility, but we're not doing it, Wolf. And the problem is, people don't want to take that responsibility. Congress is very good at sitting on the sidelines and criticizing, not very good at saying, okay, this is what we've got to do. But the answer is yes, of course, there should be a congressional authorization. The president sent a proposed authorization up about 6 months ago, and it hasn't seen the light of day. So the answer is yes. I think this is our fundamental constitutional responsibility, and we should undertake it and get into this debate right away.
Yeah, a lot of lawmakers, Democrats and Republicans for that matter, reluctant to raise their hand and vote on this issue because politically it could cause them some problems down the road. At least that's their fear. Thanks so much, Senator King, for joining us.
Last time I looked, Wolf, our job is to vote on things and hard things as well. So
you don't just vote. You don't just vote on the easy issues. You vote on the hard issues, especially when the lives of men and women in U.S. military uniforms are on the line. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.